This is Joe Standard for EDL 851, and I'm going to discuss the case study that I have had time to review and I had time to make a solution. First off, kind of a summary. Uh, you have this teacher who recently got divorced, has to watch over her teenage sons and stuff. She's having a lot of pressure and everything. She's kind of taking it out on others at school, her colleagues, and her um, students as well. So some things that we do know about the situation is that Mrs. Horton's attitude changed towards staff and students when her husband left her. She disagrees with new reading programs, so she lashes out a lot about it. She calls it stupid, and she kind of berates others that use it as well. She yells, berates, and embarrasses her students. She's setting up a climate that is very toxic for her students and that is not good for the learning environment. Both the superintendent and school received calls from parents about Mrs. Horton's classroom behavior, um, and it wasn't taken care of by the principal at that time effectively. So now the school and the superintendent are having to both get calls about this certain teacher. Things that I need to know about the situation is what's the protocol the district has for disciplining teachers? What's the plan? Is there, do we have to do a conference, plan of improvement? Is this a situation in which, the way the teacher is acting, there's just no way to remedy the situation. She needs to get out. Knowing the protocol would be very beneficial. What strategies can be used to remedy the situation? Can we use unscheduled walkthroughs? That's another thing that we need to know. Can we do something like that? You know, I know we're not supposed to use it as a gotcha moment, but she has had issues where she continuously does really well in her evaluations, but the principal is unable to see what is actually happening on in the class because she puts on a good face. Can the district recommend counseling? Because it's obvious that this woman is hurting, but she's not getting the help that she needs. Is it, can the district itself recommend counseling to help her out? And did Mrs. Horton get help during the break with emotional assistance? Because it did state that um, nothing was done before summer break. Uh, the principal was hoping that everything would be all right by the time she came back, but when she did, nothing changed. In fact, it got worse. So the question is, did she even get help? Was she able to talk to somebody? Those are some things that we need to know so we can create a plan to help her. So the plan of action, there's three things in which I have suggested that we do for Mrs. Horton. Conferencing with her and the superintendent because it's already been established that she doesn't respond well to administration alone. I think we've come to this point where we need to get the superintendent involved, considering that she did explode on a parent during a conference, and um, the situation has just gotten worse and worse, more and more septic. So we need to bring the superintendent in. The next thing we need to do is we need to develop an improvement plan. We need to come up with the steps that are going to help her improve. The first thing we would discuss on the improvement plan is probably getting some sort of mental health help. Also, suggestion would be to like have a co-teacher with her as well to kind of help keep her in line because she has completely destroyed the trust between herself and the kids. And I would not, as an administrator, be comfortable with having her in there in the classroom with just herself and those students until I know that she has improved. So there needs to be some accountability there because it has been stated in the past that she has been an effective teacher, but this recent bump in her road of life has caused her great pain. So we need somebody there. Part of the improvement plan will probably be, sitting and talking with administration about how things are going in their life, being open and being honest. Okay. If things do not improve, the last part of our plan is to terminate the teacher. because if the improvement plan is not followed, then the only recourse would be to terminate the teacher. That's the last thing that we need to do, because she has proved herself to be highly qualified in the past, so she is still able to come back from this, I feel. But we have to work on this, and if she's unwilling to do this or fails to complete her improvement plan, then we have to, as a district, terminate her. So on the resolved issue, to promote the success of all students, we must do three things. The reason why I chose the conference is with the principal superintendent could reveal to Mrs. Horton her issues in the classroom and seek to help her own, help her on her own. Okay, so that's the reason why I want to have the conference, to kind of open up, kind of like an intervention. Okay, the improvement plan outlines how Mrs. Horton is to improve emotionally and to rebuild trust with her students, because she needs to work on herself first, and then she needs to work on her relationship with her students, because it is done. If Mrs. Horton's behavior does not change, however, then the academic success and personal well-being of every student, okay, is hindered, and Mrs. Horton needs to be removed, because if not, they will suffer academically, and there's no way around that. It is a terrible, terrible system that she has placed these students in. Okay. So in the conference, Mrs. Horton has had several complaints from parents. She does not respond positively to the principal. She had an angry outburst during a conference with a parent, and that's why we need that conference. The improvement plan, Mrs. Horton's behavior has continued for a long time, including before the previous summer break. So there needs to be a plan there in place. And the termination, if the outbursts do continue and the improvement plan is not followed, then termination is required. There's no more that we can do. We can get her all the help that we need. We can get her to go to conferences. We can get her to go see a therapist. But in the end, it is on her. We can be as supportive as far as we can, but at some point we have to let her go if she does not improve. Okay, so during this, coming up with a plan and some of the things I was thinking, feeling, and valuing, well, I was thinking that Mrs. Horton created a toxic atmosphere that was harmful to students. When I was thinking about this situation and how to help it, my mind came back, oh my goodness, this is very toxic for the students. And, it's not helpful to her as a teacher and a human being. The next thing I felt helpless, because she had been there a long time. She's an accomplished teacher, and everything just collapsed on her. Because we all have those situations where everything just collapses on you, and it just seems like it comes out of nowhere. And we feel helpless about the situation, but we want to help. And we have to try to help. Because not just for Mrs. Horton, but for students as well. And that their students are number one priority. And the things that I value when that I value that played a role in me coming up with a plan is that student safety and promotion of academic and personal well-being. That is number one. That's what you have to keep in mind when we're trying to run a school, is that we must promote the well-being of every student, personal and academically. When we fail to do that, then we are not helping our students, we are not improving society, and we have to do that. Now, the benefits of of helping Mrs. Horton out so we can promote, academic and personal well-being is that, she gets the help she needs and we improve our education of the students. So some unresolved issues that are still there. First off, Mrs. Horton's personal life. Is it going to improve? How bad is it? Is it going to get better as time goes on when she gets the help that she needs? Another thing that's unresolved is whether or not the improvement plan is going to work. Are the steps inside the improvement plan going to be beneficial for her? And finally, what do we do with current students in our classroom? Do we just automatically move them out? Do we get a co-teacher? Do we get her some para support? What do we do with the students that are in her classroom if this continues to get worse, or if we find out we can't really have her in the classroom because she has created such a toxic atmosphere that parents refuse to have their kids in her classroom? So for the standard component, for standard component number one, the building administrator promotes the academic success of every student. Um, this is identified when administration meets with Mrs. Horton about her berating other teachers. It's promoting the success of every student because it's wanting to, um, make sure that students are, get the best programs there. But she kind of fought along the way. Classroom had been visited on a regular basis by administration. That's an important aspect of ensuring that we are promoting the success of every student. And lastly, the conference with the teacher and concerned parent. Okay, we are putting that out there that we concerned about your child, we concerned about their academics, and we want to do what's best for them and for you. For component number two, the building administrator promotes the personal well-being of every student. Well, to show this that we're promoting the personal well-being of every student, well, um, as an administrator, they listen to concerns from parents, staff, and superintendent um, about what was going on in the classroom and trying to come up with steps on how to collect the data of things that were happening within the school, within our classroom. Also, classroom have been visited on a regular basis, and the conferencing with a teacher and concerned parent. Okay, that those all promote the personal well-being of every student because you are showing concern for the student about their safety and how they are doing. For the final component, the building administrator enhances instructional capacity. To enhance instructional capacity to ensure that things are getting better. The situation was investigated before moving students from Mrs. Horton's class to another because you have to have thorough evidence of misgivings. Classroom have visited on a regular basis and conference with teacher and concerned parent. Okay, all those aspects help to enhance instructional capacity within the building because we're trying to, correct this issue to improve upon it. All right. Well, thank you for watching. This has been a great class, and uh, thanks.